I was on my way to somewhere else. I got a call asking if I could cut these beams up. And they told me they're really big. I might not be able to lift them with the skid loader. I said, that's ridiculous. I felt attacked, actually. My skid loader can lift anything. Now, if you follow my channel on a regular basis, you've seen me unload these beams before. And a lot of people questioned why I would risk my health and my equipment on these giant creosote-laden beams. Hey, Brock, yeah, you're teetering. You don't like being on that side of the hill. Why don't you just lift it up, let him pull out? I invested a lot of time and energy into working on this project and put some wear and tear on my equipment, and I didn't make a dime from it. So why did I get involved? Well, in the words of the late great Paul Harvey, here is the rest of the story. This one's kind of interesting. They got these concrete piers sticking up. Don't know what they go to, but they're not going to keep them. So I'm going to see if I can knock them over or knock them out. And then we got a big tree stump down there. It's probably pushing the limits on the tree puller, but we're going to give her a try. So my involvement in turning those giant creosote beams into a bridge actually started several months earlier when my brother-in-law and another friend of mine told me they were volunteering their time to create a disc golf course for our small town. Now, honestly, I could not care less about disc golf. I really didn't know much of anything about it until they started telling me. But what I do care about is the small community that I live in of just over 4,000 people, where my kids go to school and my family still lives. And in a small community like this, if you don't get volunteers, the project probably doesn't get done. Now, they weren't asking me for help. They were just telling me what they were doing. And basically, armed with machetes and a riding lawnmower, they were trying to clear trails in the woods. And I asked them if I could come see it, because I felt like we could do a little bit better than that. So after a quick walk around, I knew I had to get involved. And I brought the skid steer and my compact tractor out, and I left them for a week, and I helped for several days, but even in that case, they did most of the work themselves. After the fact, we estimated that we probably removed at least 200 tree stumps in that week. This was right next to that stump. Beautiful big one. So I took one out the same diameter. No, this is smaller. This is like 8-inch diameter. I did one in my yard that was 14-inch diameter. Pulled it out in like 3 minutes with minimal effort. This thing about got the best of me. This is a cedar, and that one was, I think like a white pine maybe, but it didn't have that kind of taproot. This has about 4 roots on it that are each about that big. I get myself in trouble buying these machines, wanting them to pay for themselves, but having a hard time actually charging people. But in this case, I think I made the right call. I learned a lesson in community involvement from having kids in youth sports. If you ever show up to watch a Little League baseball game or a Pee Wee football game, it's easy to take for granted that the kids have a place to play and people to coach them and people to work in the concession stand. In a small community, you can find out pretty quickly that it's hard to find volunteers to get those necessary jobs done. And I ended up coaching sports for quite a few years without really wanting to or having the credentials, but you realize if you don't do it, no one will. So I hope it doesn't sound like I'm on a soapbox, but the guy who is in charge of organizing the build-out of this disc golf course is the same guy who was the president of the Pee Wee Football League when my son played. And the amount of hours that it takes to organize something like this is a lot more than you would think. And this disc golf course has no budget whatsoever, but it's giving people a place for recreational activity, and it's bringing tourism into our little community. So not long after I took my machines home, this was a playable disc golf course, but there was one thing missing. Basically no other way to describe it. These things are enormous. The disc golf course that I worked at a couple weeks ago is building a bridge across a pond area. It'd be kind of like what I've got at my pond, only bigger. They're using, steel I-beams, but then everything else about the bridge is going to be made out of these railroad ties right here. So the first step of that is going to be separating these into thirds, and then we'll mill each of these thirds up. And we'll have to cut them to length too, because my mill's only 16.5 foot capacity, and these are 28. First thing we want to do is a test with just a short section, and the ends of these, the last 4 or 5 feet, are kind of separated off, and if we can get 2 bolts out, we can pull one of those small manageable chunks out and just see how it handles it on the saw. So the disc golf course was really popular, and it had a lot of character being built into the woods, but there was one problem, and that is a dried up pond that you had to walk around for one of the holes. And they were viewing that as a little bit of a safety hazard and an opportunity to give this course a signature spot that would really be unique and memorable about the course. They wanted to build a bridge across that pond that would be functional, but also have a cool rustic look to it. So they definitely did not want to use new wood. And like I said earlier, there was absolutely no budget for this course. So they started looking for people who are giving away free railroad ties. And they thought they'd found some, but what they ended up with when they went to pick up the railroad ties was railroad stringers, which is what you see here. These constructed beams are similar, but they're 28 feet long, 36 inches wide, 18 inches thick, and weigh about 5,000 pounds. So besides the health concerns with creosote, everyone was telling me that it's going to gum up, dull the blades, and that creosote's going to gum up around the belt and everything. So I'm thinking, what can I use as a lubricant or a cutting oil? And instead of water, I thought about using diesel, but what we're going to try is pine sol. But rather than put that in the lube tank above, we're just going to spray it on the blade and see how it does. Well, we've made one cut without any disasters, and I've always believed if a little's good, a lot's better, so we should not have any problems for the whole project.
Ooh, watch out. Ooh, watch out. Ooh, watch out. Right in the back of the back. Not in the front of the back, but the back of the back.
In the first video where I showed this project, I asked the viewer if they thought it was worth it for me to try to mill this. And the biggest concern was that it was going to damage the sawmill, tear up a lot of blades, wear out the belts from the creosote gumming up, and those were valid concerns. That's why we used a special cutting fluid, and I still went through, I think, 4 sawmill blades that cost about $25 a piece. It was really rewarding helping my friends and my community with this project. But it's not all just done out of altruism. I make money from these videos. And as I'm recording this, I just checked the stats combined between all of the videos I've published on this project, and I've made about $500 off of these 4 videos because these videos have done well. Now, if we were charging the market rate for running the sawmill through all this lumber and taking my 2 machines out on location for a week and getting involved with building the bridge, I'd have several $1,000s to bill out. But I honestly feel like I got the better end of the deal because I enjoyed being involved in the project. I enjoyed the creative aspect of it. And a long time ago, I heard someone say that they give to others and do for others out of selfishness. And that sounds counterintuitive, but the answer is that they did it because of how it made them feel. Now, once again, it sounds like I'm patting myself on the back for what a great guy I am doing this work for people, but that's not what I'm trying to say. There's a lot of conversation in my videos about what I'm charging for different services I do. Tomorrow, I'm taking my new wood splitter and I'm driving it 30 minutes away to split some wood for an older gentleman that has a tree down in his yard. I'm not charging anything for that. I'm doing it because I want to do something nice for him, but also my job is to make videos, and I get to use that as an excuse to get paid to do something nice for someone. So people get mad at me in the comments for not charging enough for the work, but I feel like YouTube lets me be a little bit of a Robin Hood. And what I mean by that is that there's a lot of big-hearted, well-intentioned contractors out there who would love to do free work for people, and they just can't because of the expenses that come along with owning the equipment and the overhead and possibly employees and insurance. But making these videos allows me to subsidize the work I do for people who can't afford to pay. And what an amazing privilege that is, and I didn't even realize it until just recently. So that is the rest of the story as far as why I don't charge more for what I do. But what about the rest of the story for this bridge?
This is a really nice stack of lumber, and it's treated. I think it's going to make a great bridge. These planks are true 2-inch, and they're going to run the same stuff along the beam, bolt it to the beam, and make the planks out of this be about 5 foot wide, 40 foot long. I think it's going to be there for a long time.
And that's how it's done, boys. For you guys who haven't been following the story, this is a disc golf course. So you see the red basket over there? That's where they throw at. These concrete pads are where they throw from. And this place is really cool, but my favorite thing about it, I think, is gonna be this bridge.
What's up?
It's not gonna slide. If anything, it might just tip it over.
There you go.
Now this will hold it from going in more. You
Yeah.
only need an inch to get the beam under right here if that's what you're going for.
Just don't jump off. No, I won't.
I went home to get the Geniverse so we could plug the saw in, and I grabbed a chainsaw, and these two guys snuck around behind my back and did most of the work. It's frustrating.
We're sneaky.
I don't know why I put up with it.
It's time to rock and roll.
Okay, so here's the bridge we've been working on. Right now the challenge is it's a big step to get up there.
A little inside. That's your car. That's your car. Yep.
Okay, so we finished the other side. I had to go run some errands and we're back out here. But I'm starting with the camera pointed over here because I just love this part of the course. The way those trees wrap over and just the look of them is pretty awesome. Now, on this side, it's going to be hard to do exactly what we did before because I can't get a machine in here. And this drops off really steep. I mean, that's about 4 foot high from where I'm standing. But there's an easier step off on this side over here. So I'm gonna drag back a lot of this brush and at least get some dirt right up here so that they can dismount, and then we'll just see how it goes. So I don't know how steep that looks, but I know how steep it feels, and it feels pretty steep. So if you're looking for perfect, you won't find any of that in any of the work we did out here. But sometimes, especially with something like this, I think you just grade on the effort scale, and we did the best we could with limited knowledge and resources, and I think we've made something pretty cool. There's all kinds of things you could criticize about the way we did it, but I'm thrilled. It's been several months since we finished, and they've been using this bridge. This video is going to publish the day before Thanksgiving, and as I put this together, it really just makes me think about gratitude. And I've got a million things to be grateful in life. But I'm really grateful for the opportunity to spend my time doing projects like this, making videos, and working outdoors. It's just an incredible blessing. And in the words of Dave Ramsey, it feels like more than I deserve, or better than I deserve. And I want to thank you guys for watching the videos and supporting the channel and making that possible. And that, my friends, is the rest of the story. So I appreciate you guys taking time to watch the video. I'll put links on the screen to a couple more of our videos, and I'll see you next time.